Good evening, dear friends. Today we'd like to talk about American hegemony, the nature of American hegemony, whether hegemony is really actualized or is it just a potential. Different questions about the nature of American hegemony. Whether American hegemony is benevolent hegemony or is it malign hegemony, or is American hegemony on decline or is it on ascendance? Different questions related to American hegemony. We'll discuss all these issues today. The first aspect that we're discussing is the type of American hegemony, the nature of American hegemony. Okay, is there any parallel or is there any other comparable dominance or hegemony imposed by any other power in recent times? Now we know that there was such kind of dominance that was imposed by England in the 18th century and 19th century. However, the type of dominance that was imposed by England was imperialist or expansionist, because the European countries were constrained by territory, they were constrained by geography, and therefore they were outward looking, they were expansionists, they were looking for territories abroad to try and impose themselves on the rest of the world. So the type of hegemony or dominance that was imposed by the European powers was outward looking, but the type of dominance that was imposed by America was slightly different. Okay, uh, it's usually considered to be comparable. American hegemony is usually considered to be comparable to the ancient imperial Rome. Okay, which was a type of domination that was based more on the Roman values, the Roman culture, the Roman civilization. That was the kind of dominance that Rome had over the territories that went under its control. More than conquest, more than war, or more than colonialism, the Roman ideas and Roman civilization left their big influence or impact on the territories that were dominated or controlled by Rome. American hegemony also is more or less to a very great extent propagated by several ideas or notions about American, American way of life, American values, American dream. In good number of instances, America tried to, propagate a set of values that America was upholding, and values for which America was ready to enter into conflicts like World War. America had entered the First World War to protect freedom of trade and freedom of high seas. America had entered the Second World War to make the world safe for democracy. America had entered into a Cold War with USSR to contain communism and to save the world from the specter of communism. These were the kind of ideas that were propagated for justifying America's dominance or America's intervention in global affairs. Therefore, the type of dominance that America that imposed on the world was mostly because of the nature of its policies, uh, the kind of foreign policy that America propagated right from the beginning. It was isolationist foreign policy, which was inward looking, and later on America portrayed itself to be a power that was compelled to enter into global politics and so forth. All these were a good number of ideas that were propagated as a part of America's interaction with the world. Prior to the First World War, America followed a policy of isolationism. Okay, it was inward-looking policy, and it was a policy that was primarily aimed at keeping America away from entangling alliances, as was very popularly called as by Roosevelt. In the interwar period, leadership was forced on America primarily because of its intervention in World War One, in the way it was instrumental in the formation of League of Nations and so forth. In 1926 itself, America emerged as the world's largest economy, and primarily after the Second World War. Decline of Europe and America emerging as the sole nuclear power, and the imperative for America to contain the spread of communism, and the compulsions of Cold War, into which America entered into, all made America play a very very big role in shaping the world order. The bipolar world, and America playing a big role in establishing Bretton Woods Twins, United Nations Organization. All these made America play a very big role in international affairs, right? Now, after the end of Cold War, new theses like end of history or end of ideology were propagated, which indicate that capitalism had won its historic victory against communism. Okay, and economic globalization received a very big boost because of the unshackling of East European nations from the clutches of communism, right? And America emerging as a hyperpower because of disintegration of Soviet Union, and several events that were immediately following the end of Cold War, like the Gulf War. They indicated the new approach that America was going to take as far as the world was concerned or international politics was concerned. America displayed its willingness um, to raise up to the occasion and to take up its mantle as the leader of the world, to uh, you know play a very big role in a so-called unipolar world. There were three important events that established America as a global hegemon. The first one was Operation Desert Storm. Okay, now after the United Nations organization had failed to convince Iraq into withdrawing from Kuwait, America, after a mandate from UN, organized a coalition of 34 countries with about 6 lakh troops to repel Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. However, this war was primarily an American war, with 75% of the troops comprising the American troops, and it was considered as a computer war because this war put on display the American technological might. The smart bombs, the carpet bombs, and so forth. This war also was called as the video games war, primarily because this was the war which for the first time brought the images of the war to every household in the entire world through broadcasting of the war images directly. So war was brought to every household, and war was viewed. So this was the way America was showing to the world that it had come to the party. This indicated the beginning of American hegemony. The second important operation was the Operation Infinite Reach. That was in 1998, and this was the American response to the bombing of U.S. embassies at Nairobi and at Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. America disregarded UN, and America launched cruise missile strikes in countries like Sudan and Afghanistan to destroy the installations of Al Qaeda. Okay, so this was the first time that America disregarded United Nations organization. There was a big criticism against U.S. actions, primarily because of the severe civilian deaths, and America for the first time declared its intention to act unilaterally. Okay, in any part of the world, whenever American interests or American facilities are threatened or destroyed. The third operation was the operation called Enduring Freedom, and this was an operation in response to the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center in America. Now, this was an operation in which America displayed scant regard for international law. Okay, so without the knowledge of respective governments, America, uh, launched operations. It began to arrest individuals. It began to pick up individuals, kidnap individuals. It began to conduct interrogation. Okay, a good number of civilians from these countries or people alleged to have committed actions which were, threatening American interests were transferred to secret bases like Guantanamo Bay and so forth. And America had also declared some states as rogue states. Okay, and started taking action against these states. Doctrines like preemptive strike or preemptive action or preventive war, and doctrines like rogue states. Rogue states are those which have adopted policies which America feels were detrimental to global peace and security. Okay, several countries were identified as rogue states like Iraq, then Sudan, Libya, North Korea. Okay, all these countries were declared as rogue states by America, and the actions of these states were put under scanner, and America, also propagated the need to take action against these states whenever these actions of these states were threatening, order that was supported by U.S. Now we know that the basis for American hegemony was both hard as well as soft power. The bedrock of American hegemony was, of course, hard power. Okay, America's military expenditure equals the military expenditure of 12 major powers. And America is probably the only country that has the capability to bring into action um, forces, military forces that can be deployed in real time in any part of the world. And also, America is the only country that has, the blue water navy. Uh, America also, commits maximum budget to Pentagon um, for research and development of weapon-related technology. And America's soft power is also very considerable. The capacity to manufacture consent, the ideological resources that America has to convince other nations of its policies, and the diplomatic power America has and control that America has over international institutions. What's called as the considerable structural power that America has. Now, all these indicate America's hegemony, my dear friends. Now, though there are a good number of doubts expressed about whether America will be able to sustain such kind of hegemony or not. America had proved to be resilient, and you know that even at the times of Cold War also, American capabilities were called into question. However, the Reagan administration between 1981 to 1989, okay, which is supposed to have laid the foundations for the present hegemony, had showed that America can act decisively. America can call upon resources that can make it, a global power. Fall of Soviet Union and end of Cold War, okay, and democratization and adoption of liberal policies, market principle by a good number of East European countries through what was very popularly called as the shock therapy, okay, the Gulf War, which allowed America to display its willingness to assume the role of a leader, okay, and all these were the all these have laid the path for America to assume its hegemonistic role. American foreign policy also was very much influenced by a new idea called neoconservatism, which is an approach which seeks to combine objectives, twin objectives of one America, enabling two objectives, one which says that America should take the advantage by acquiring more and more power and by protecting America's interests and by deterring rivals. And secondly, this should be combined with the second objective of spreading ideas of democracy, okay, and promotion of integration. Now there are a few questions arisen about America's hegemony. The first question is whether America's hegemony is benevolent hegemony or what's called as malign hegemony. Now, benevolent hegemony is a hegemony that is established by a nation which promotes peace and which allows eradication of conflict. Something like establishing peace through dominance of America, Pax Americana. The hegemonic stability theory, which is proposed by a good number of strategic experts, believe that the liberal global economy requires a dominant power. It requires a dominant power to control the dangers to liberal global economy in the form which can arise in the form of protectionism or rising economic nationalism. So these are twin dangers that a liberal global economy can face, and to overcome such dangers we require a dominant power. US, according to the hegemonic stability theory, has the capability, it also has the will, and America also has an interest in propagating, liberal global economy. The malign hegemony theory seeks to project America's dominance as a hegemony which leads to injustice, conflict, and self-centered policies of US. A good number of realists contend that all global hegemons, whether it is America or any other power, are destined to be malign because they operate in an international scenario which is characterized by anarchy, and every nation state seeks to protect its self-interests, and every nation state seeks to pursue power, and therefore a dominant power will do so more emphatically because it does not have any rivals. Noam Chomsky declares that the more powerful state is, the greater is its tendency to be oppressive and to be a tyranny. He criticizes US as a rogue superpower, okay, and with a good amount of interventions in a lot of areas like Vietnam, Panama, El Salvador, Afghanistan, okay. The second aspect about US hegemony is whether US hegemony is on a decline or is it on ascendance. The war on terror had brought on to the forefront this idea about whether American hegemony is on a decline or on ascendance. Now there are contrasting views. There are some views which say that American hegemony is on a decline, primarily because of the redundance of military power, relative economic decline, and damaged soft power, and reduced diplomatic power, the rise of BRICS EU, the China factor. All these have been identified by a good number of experts as indications of America's declining hegemony. There is another viewpoint, however, which says that U.S. hegemony is still intact. Global military dominance. America accounts for about 42% of global military expenditure. The second comes China, and America's military expenditure is approximately estimated to be around 6 times greater than that of Chinese. Economic resilience. That America is economically very strong, and America has advanced technology. It is considered that Chinese technology is generations behind America's technological edge and advantage. And structural power, of course, America is still the leader of NATO, the most powerful military alliance. America still is at the forefront of a good number of multilateral financial institutions and international organizations, and America is also one of the decisive factor in global economic, political, and strategic decisions. That makes America, still a very big power to contend with. Okay, so this is about America's hegemony and the questions related to American hegemony. Thank you so much, dear friends.